or as he calls it, the way the many understand it, and the way he understands it. Sometimes he calls this the higher part, or the philosophical. So he's going to now describe the philosophical higher. He's now going to study these formal studies. He's going to talk about them in the popular way, and this is the way they're taught in the schools today, so you won't have any trouble understanding that. Right? And now we want to get into the higher part of each one of these. Arithmetic. He said, you know what? No one uses arithmetic rightly. Because if you do, you see, the proper study of arithmetic is the kind of study that invites thought. Now, here's the wonderful thing about this. This is going to be our first step in confusion. Right? Remember I said we're going to get a little confused? He says, you know, the study of number, the study of arithmetic must be and must have one major goal. It must invite thought, a certain kind of thought. Oh, look here, let me show you something that might invite thought. If I have two fingers and I say they're both equally a finger, you won't object to that, I'm sure, right? If I say, hey, now I got 3 fingers now. Or let me take these 3 fingers. It's easier with these 3 because they have used them before and they know all about what we're going to be talking about, right? Now look here, each is equally a finger. And when I talk about these, we can say which one is taller than the other, can we not? Bigger than the other in respect to height? Which one is small? Doesn't cause us any concern, does it? But now what happens? Can we still say this is the taller? Right? Therefore, all comparative judgments based upon sense experience generates always perception. Perceptions are a certain interesting kind. When the perceptions show two opposites equally. All right, look here, what are 2 opposites? Do you agree? This is smaller than this, and this is taller than this. So I can talk about the same thing being both taller and smaller, can I not? I can talk about this being the smallest. Therefore, whenever I'm making comparative judgments in sense experience, I can go back and forth and talk about them in one way, and then when I compare them in another way, I can attribute to them other things. Can I not? That's the nature of comparative judgments. So if I have 2 things, one that is light and one is heavy, and then I bring 2 other things that are lighter and heavier than those 2, then I can talk about the middle ones being light heavy and heavy light, can I not? Gets confusing. So he says, it's for these kinds of things that thought must be called in to decide what the perceptions are saying. Now, let me add to it now. But if some contradiction is always seen coincidentally with it, so it appears to be no more one than its opposite, then we'll need a judge to decide what we're talking about. Right? The soul must be compelled to make an inquiry to try to discover what sense is being made by the statements that are uttered. Now, as an example, would you not agree of 2 professions, we can say a soldier and a philosopher are indeed different, are they not, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me make sure. Yeah, if we get 3 people in a row to agree to anything, it's an eternal truth, right?
Not in public, though.
Okay, all right, let's watch now. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, we're still on this curious statement. And he gives an example of what he means. And this is the one with the soldier and the philosopher. He says, for a soldier must learn numbers in order to marshal his troops. And a philosopher, because he must rise out of the region of generation and lay hold of essence. So our soldier and philosopher are one. Why would it follow that they're one? That's different. They're totally different according to that example. Why would they be one? Yeah, would you not agree when we have a question like this, it's best to call upon a volunteer? Thank you. I mean, a soldier and a philosopher, in respect to one is doing one thing and another is doing another, and they're different, and since they both are different and doing different things, then why would Plato say, therefore, our soldier and philosopher is one? How can two differences functioning differently end up being one? Now, sense perception certainly would see that as different. Sense perception would see that. Well, what are we going to do? It's obviously wrong. And you always agree with that, don't you? He's obviously wrong in this case?
No,
Well, tell us why.
well, I can't. I'm not sure.
When,
I don't know the Republic.
when you don't even need the Republic for this.
What about by analogy?
I don't mind analogies, please.
If the soldier and the philosopher have a single purpose, then the apparent differences would be of no account. And if the apparent differences are not valid, then when they have a single purpose, then they would be one.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Now, what might be the single purpose that both the soldier and the philosopher may have in respect to
At
this?
the beginning, you said the purpose was for the one to rise above the many. So I would imagine that the soldier and the philosopher have that one goal.
I think you're quite right. Can we add to it? Come on, can we add to it from what we used
Create a
before?
unity of the troops, create a unity of the philosopher bringing himself together as a unity.
Yeah, louder.
The soldier would bring a unity, a oneness of his troops.
And so would,
The philosopher.
oh, good. Oh, you mean they both need justice?
Yeah.
And bravery? And temperance? Oh, in that respect, what are they doing in respect to themselves? Are they each making out of themselves a one? Oh, if that's the case, now we have a curious problem, you see. Because if he's involved in a discipline, a practice, of oneing, becoming one, and certainly the guardian as well as the philosopher would go through the same quest, both would need bravery, would they not? Remember what we said a moment ago? That both need temperance, in terms of what he's describing as temperance, and they both need justice, do they not? Again, in terms of the way in which we just described it. And if they both are pursuing that on the same level, would they not then become would not each become a one out of many? Might they not? Because if they mastered the things we just described a moment ago, going through the same process, would they not? Let's quickly look at it. All right. They would both be interested in a certain power, the power where they can bring the three parts of the soul together, bound together, so they make themselves a one out of many. They'd be interested in practice in preserving that condition of the soul. Would you not agree? They would then, in terms of the